The following was recorded in front of a live studio audience at the Studio 21 Podcast Café. This is the United Podcast Network.
Welcome to the Friends in Recovery podcast, the podcast that is here to help you, a loved one, or a friend get started down the road to recovery. This is the Friends in Recovery podcast, brought to you by the Genesis House. Genesis House, providing a safe, nurturing environment to heal from addiction since 1992. Please be a friend and share our message with a friend on Podbean, iTunes, iHeartRadio, or YouTube. And now, here are your Friends in Recovery.
Hey, welcome everybody to Friends in Recovery podcast. We're broadcasting live from the Studio 21 Podcast Café, which is a mecca and just a wonderful place to be. Every Tuesday we're here, and I got to say, this is... never gets old. Never gets old.
No, it's awesome.
And we are your Friends in Recovery. Come get sober with us. We can be reached at friendsinrecoverypodcast.com. You can call us at our 800 number, which is 1-800-989-6504, or friendsinrecoverypodcast.com. Also look for us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Be sure to like us and subscribe. We would like to, take this moment to thank Genesis House for sponsoring Friends in Recovery podcast. And honestly, we're doing this 5 months. The numbers are through the roof.
Yes, sir.
Especially the last couple of weeks without Eddie being here. And I don't know, maybe that's a sign.
We really appreciate all the listeners.
Yep, and we're doing really well, and thanks to Ed. But really, I want to thank Genesis for sponsoring this because great place to get sober, great place to find your place to put your life back together. That's it, Genesis House. And now back to Studio 21 Podcast Cafe and our show. And I'm Mike Miles, also known as the Podfather, self-named, of course. And Eddie wants me to say it. And I have my good friend here, Rich Lombardi, who is
the step guy.
Today's Tuesday.
Second Tuesday of the month. 5 months. It seems like, time goes by fast when you're having fun, right, Mikey?
Sure it does. And what step are we doing today, Rich?
We're doing step 5 today.
Tell me all about it.
Yeah, it's. I just want to congratulate everybody who's been listening and been celebrating with us and practicing the steps of recovery.
Sure.
And so we've gone through the first 4 steps. We've written everything down. We're in the working process. And now it's time to admit to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. Right. And I know this can be very scary sometimes. We were talking about it earlier before the show.
Sure.
That, this can be scary. But it's not as scary as we think.
Right.
And the sooner we get this stuff out, the sooner the better. So what are we going to do? We're going to admit, right, every dark cranny of the past. Oh, holy cow, right?
That's scary.
Yeah.
Can be.
But what happens when we do that? What happens? We overcome.
Right.
We overcome.
Set ourselves free.
Yeah, we set ourselves free from the cranny, from the old dark past, right?
That's right.
What do they say? We're only as sick as our secrets.
That's right.
And so we want to start getting some of these secrets out. And we want to find someone, maybe a spiritual advisor, a sponsor, someone that we can trust. And we're going to withhold nothing.
Right.
This is the time.
Right. And I think it's important to stay, too. When people first come into the program, it takes a while. It takes a while to get your mental faculties back. You got a lot of loose nuts and bolts up in the head. But most importantly, before you jump into the steps, you should get a foundation and you get some sobriety. And then when you start doing, especially steps 4 and 5, step 5 is such an important step because it's cathartic. It's catharsis.
Exactly.
You're confessing all your bad things that you've done. You want to feel better about yourself. So you should find somebody that, one, is trustworthy. If you speak to a spiritual advisor, they're sworn basically by law, and by ethics that they can't tell you secrets. What do you think? What's your
you also want to be careful. Your sponsor, you don't want to be telling them things that he could be called into court for.
Right, good point.
So those type of things you want to talk to someone, a lawyer or a doctor or a priest, someone who is bound by the state and by the law
Right.
that they don't have to share that type of information. But it's funny, when I was thinking about this today, and I was thinking about early in recovery, I remember I was in treatment.
Right.
And I remember I met a young man who had completed 5 years of sobriety, and I went up to him after the meeting, and I asked him how did he do that?
Right.
And because I was in treatment, I was in a locked ward.
Right.
If you've ever been in a locked ward, you're probably an alcoholic. 'Cause
Right.
regular folks don't end up in locked wards, as we know. But anyway, I went up to him, and he made a couple of suggestions, and I took those suggestions, and I had my first spiritual experience a couple days later.
Right.
I didn't know what that was,
Right.
but basically I met a counselor. And for the first time in my life, I told that counselor the truth.
Right.
I told her some of these nooks and crannies of the past.
Mm-hmm.
So I did my first, fourth, and fifth step with this counselor, unbeknownst to even myself.
Right.
And what happened when I did this was I got a tremendous sense of relief.
Sure.
For the first time in my life, I had actually started telling the truth.
Right.
Because up to that point, I was lying.
Right.
I was lying to myself. I was lying to everybody else. And really, this is what's going to happen. We're going to start to explain the exact nature of our wrongs, right? The true reasons why we drank, right? And the twist in our character. And we're going to start talking about a little self-pity and dishonesty and self-seeking motives, that type of stuff.
Sure.
And so I was sharing this stuff. And when I did that, after I was completed that, I got a tremendous sense of relief.
Sure.
And that's the experience I had later on when I officially went through them. Now I was a little more comfortable because I had some time under my belt, and I was doing this deal and practicing, and so the next time I had to really put it all out there, I was a little bit ready.
Sure. In early recovery, we also discovered that we've been living a big lie. We've been living in denial. We've lied to keep our addiction going. We've lied about money we've spent, where we've been, what we're doing. Basically you lie every day.
Yeah,
and you're lying to yourself. You're telling yourself it's not that bad. I'm not that bad. I'm spending $300 a day on drugs, but I'm not that bad. I'm going to quit tomorrow. It's not me. It's people, places, things making me do this.
Exactly.
And to be set free. A friend of mine, Mickey O'Keefe, he was a retired Lowell police officer. He won't mind me breaking his anonymity, I hope. Been sober a long time. But Mickey always said, the truth will set you free.
Yeah.
And he'd shout
So
that
true.
all the time. And, he was right. What a great, in the big book talks about we're going to know a new freedom. And, we don't want to shut the door on our past. We're not proud of it, but we don't want to shut the door on it because our past is why we're at presently.
Exactly. And like I said, we lied to others. We lied to ourselves for years about who we were and what we did.
Right.
By the time I came to the program, I had an alias.
Jesus.
You know what I mean? I used a fake name, because I didn't want anybody to know what I was doing,
Sure.
where I was coming from.
Sure.
I didn't want to get caught, and so you start to believe the hype.
Right.
You lie so much that eventually you start to believe the lies,
That's
and
right.
about your addiction, just like you said, and about everything else in your life too. And then it's time to turn and speak straight and true perspective to another person.
Sure.
Right? And so now we sit down, we talk truth, we get our truth out there, and then once we get our truth out there, it's a lot easier to talk about your truth. Now I go to meetings, I can share my experience, my strength, and my hope with other folks.
Sure.
I'm not ashamed anymore.
Right.
This took away a lot of the shame, the guilt, the remorse that I had about things that I had done. And when I was done speaking with my spiritual advisor, my counselor, and my sponsor, I got a tremendous sense of relief, and then they were able to tell me that I wasn't that bad.
Right. I look back. I had an alcohol and drug problem, and I got sober in 1986. But I work with a lot of courageous and gifted police officers that were fighting the war on crime. I mean, the war on drugs.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of crime involved. There was a lot of guns and bad things happening. And I don't think they were too happy. A lot of them weren't too happy knowing that I had a problem with drugs. But, some of them stood by me. Some of them turned their backs on me. And I understood. I never held any grudges. But I could understand it. But it wasn't easy to get up and talk about a drug addiction as a young cop, 32 years old. Even in the halls, I had trouble doing that. But as time went on, I realized I was more accepted in the halls. People understood it. And speaking about it, the cathartic reverence, the cathartic, grace I got I'd feel so good about myself. Not that I was patting myself on the back. I just felt good getting it up.
Yeah,
getting
exactly,
it up,
exactly. Because now, once you, like you say, once you get the secrets out, they no longer have a hold on you anymore.
Correct.
And then another thing I wrote down here says, we share our thoughts, our actions, and our motives in our lives that have worked and have not worked to make us happy, joyous, and free. So we're going to get that stuff out there so we can, to God, the God of our understanding, right? A lot of people have difficulty with God. If that's the case, no problem.
Yeah,
Just believe that we believe, and
That's
believe that I believe.
That's all you got to do.
And good, there's good in all of us, and even the worst of us, you know?
Absolutely.
And what happened was, once I did this and I shared this with my higher power, I felt a greater connection.
Absolutely.
It's just like in relationships every day, right? The more honest you are in relationships, the more open you are in relationship, the better the relationship.
Absolutely.
Right? But once I start to lie or that type of stuff, then it puts a little divide in the
That's
relationship.
That's right.
And that's what happened with me and my higher power, you know. Once I started lying and once I had the guilt, the shame, and the remorse, it got in the way of my relationship with my higher power. So now what this does for me is it opens up that door. And,
even again back to early recovery. I had nothing. I didn't have a job. I was fighting to keep my job, so I wasn't working. I had an old beat up car that wasn't registered, wasn't insured, but I still drove it because I need to get around.
Yeah.
I had very little money. Luckily, I lived in an apartment that was dirt cheap. But you know what? All of a sudden, I started being happy about me. I had nothing. When I tell you I had nothing, I had nothing.
Yeah.
But I had me, and I just loved it. I loved being able to go to bed at night, sleep without any worries about who am I going to have to lie to tomorrow? How am I going to get more money tomorrow? How am I going to do this? I just get up in the morning. I had a baked bean jar.
Yeah.
And it had change in it. and I'd put all my money in it, and I'd go through it. And back then I smoked cigarettes. I'd get enough for cigarettes and a coffee, and then I'd put it away. But I was the happiest cat in the world.
Yeah, it frees you up. You get so free,
Right.
You get so free because you really don't have to.
Had that attitude of gratitude. Rich,
Yeah, exactly. You are grateful heart will never drink, right?
That's right.
Excuse me, that's what I heard early on.
Yeah.
Now we're going to share this with God and then with ourselves.
Right.
And so with ourselves, what does that mean? Well, obviously, while I'm out there using and I'm lying and I'm in denial about my addiction, and there's an acronym for denial. It's called "Don't Even Know I'm Lying."
Right.
Right?
A lot of acronyms in AA.
Yeah, and then we discover what's right for us.
Right.
So now I share this with my higher power. I share it with myself, which breaks that denial. Now I'm being honest with myself, right? And I'm honest with other people.
Right.
And then ultimately I'm going to share this with a closed-mouth, understanding friend or sponsor or some person that doesn't matter whether they understand or not. Maybe they do, maybe they don't.
Right.
But I know, in my religion of growing up, they called it confession.
Right.
And before I stopped doing business with God, I did a lot of that.
Right.
I would do that kind of on the regular basis. Right. And I always felt better when I came out of there, when I talked to someone. Right. I always felt a little bit better, like I'm getting it out there.
Right.
Someone knows, and then, I would do what they would ask me to do.
Right.
And then, and then I could go about my life again, you know what I mean? And not that I didn't stop doing what I was doing, but for a short period of time, I felt good about myself again. You know what I mean?
Well, I can honestly say this. I'm laughing because I'd go to confession, and I'd only tell them the mild sins.
I
kept the big ones, and it was like 21 skidoo. I'd go in, hey, bless me, Father, I have sinned. I swore at my mother, I did this, and I'd be out the door, and I'd do my penance, and I'd be out, and I'd feel, I feel so much better. But I never told them the complete story. It wasn't until I actually got into AA and got into the steps that I confessed it all. It was like a balloon. And I let all the air out, and it was just flat. There was nothing left. And I got to tell you, I swear to you, I would feel like I was high. I'd feel better than high.
You feel like $1 million.
It was awesome.
Like I said early on, when I met that counselor, and I did this with that counselor, unbeknownst what this was.
Right.
When I left that office, I felt like $1 million. I was like, holy cow.
Yeah.
Like I can tell the truth again.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because I didn't think I could tell the truth anymore.
Sure. Well, like you say right here, with courage, we tell the truth about who we are. Then with trust, we listen to the response.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. And our lonely existence of shame is replaced by humility and self-acceptance.
Yeah.
And boy, I'll tell you, the old saying, Jung Jung, J-U-N-G, the famous
Dr. Jung.
Yeah. Says, you can't love anyone until you love yourself. And you can't love yourself when you're an addict, when you're an alcoholic, because you're just not happy.
Yeah,
but when
it's tough when you're full of guilt and shame and remorse.
When you start getting recovery, you know what? Self-acceptance. You accept who you are. And all of a sudden, I think this program is a miracle. This is my opinion.
Oh, yeah, definitely. There's no question.
There's no getting
this was
around
created
it.
by a power greater than ourselves. There's no
Whatever
question.
that power is. God bless anyone who doesn't want to believe in God. That's fine, but, yeah.
And it's and as we go to step 1, 2, and 3, eventually when we make that decision to turn our will and our life over to the care of God as we understand Him, that starts to open the door to this also. And then we do step 1, we write everything down. The reason we write everything down and do an inventory is so we can actually see it.
Right.
Because sometimes we'll be delusional and we won't see it. And now at least we have that.
Sure.
Then we can talk to the other human being about our defects of character and all these other things. And then ultimately what happens is that you end the isolation from your fellows and from yourself.
Sure.
And they start to feel good about yourself, and you realize that the truth does set you free.
Well, it does. It sure does.
And this is an ongoing process.
Right.
So we do it. We do it, and then we work on it on the regular. Right. As we get through the other steps, and we start making amends, and we get rid of some resentments and these type of things, which we're going to talk about.
Sure.
As we go forward. Yep. But and then as we're doing 10, 11, and 12, we try to nip this in the butt right away.
Right.
So we don't build up any new stuff.
Okay, well, Ed Sullivan, our producer, is giving me the high side, so we're ready to take a break. And we'll be right back. You're listening to the Friends in Recovery podcast, live from Studio 21 Podcast Café with the famous Mr. Ed Sullivan and Sean, the greatest coffee maker ever.
Oh, yeah. Right? Thank you, Sean.
I was going to call him a conquistador, but he's really a brewmaster.
Yeah. What do they call that? Jeez, I forget.
You don't go to Starbucks either.
Sean the barista.
Oh, a barista.
There you go.
Put that hammer down and check out the Don't Do It Yourself podcast. The Don't Do It Yourself podcast is a weekly podcast where Tommy Two Shoes and No Nonsense Nance sit down with a different specialist every week. If you're tired of unvetted and uninsured contractors charging too much money for not enough quality, you need to check out the Don't Do It Yourself podcast, the Contractors Referral Program. The Don't Do It Yourself podcast is live on YouTube every Thursday morning at 11 a.m. or on demand on iTunes, Podbean, iHeartRadio, or your favorite podcast catcher. Put that hammer down and don't do it yourself. Genesis House is a premier substance abuse and rehabilitation facility located in beautiful Palm Beach County, Florida. We have been providing the highest quality of addiction treatment since 1992 and are accredited by the Joint Commission. We offer a range of programs that include detox, residential treatment, dual diagnosis, a Christian track for people who want to incorporate their faith into treatment, a uniform services track, and we work with most major insurance carriers. Genesis House is led by a dedicated team of administrative and clinical professionals, and we stand on our commitment to excellence in recovery services. Contact us today to find out more about our program. Take the first step and call Genesis House at 800-737-0933 or visit us on the web at www.genesishouse.net. That's 800-737-0933 or www.genesishouse.net. Begin your journey to a long and successful recovery with Genesis House.
Soul Sessions is an intuitive life coaching service that provides a safe place for everyone to get the guidance they are seeking. Intuitive life coach Shanti Syncere Slade uses her powerful gifts of empathy, spiritual connection, intuition, human experience, and conscious listening to provide a safe place to evolve and shed light on the truth of who we all are, brilliant divine beings. Remembering ourselves as spiritual beings helps us to navigate through the human experience with more gratitude and ease. For more information or to book a free 30-minute telephonic consultation, please visit our website at www.soulsessions.com. That's www.SOEL for Seeing Ourselves Evolve Lovingly, sessions with an S.com. We can all use a little guidance.
Richie Lombardi, the Step Guy, joins us once a month on the second Tuesday, where we plan to get in-depth with each of the 12 steps to recovery. Come get sober with the Friends in Recovery podcast and Rich, the Step Guy, Lombardi. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our podcast to get this and every episode each and every week.
Hey, welcome back to Friends in Recovery podcast, live from Studio 21 Podcast Café. And this is a mecca. We love it here. I'm Mike Miles, and I'm also the pod father.
The pod father,
yeah,
Rich Lombardi, the step guy.
Step guy, and Ed Chaccio, the what would he be?
Ed, he would be the sponsor.
The sponsor. Poor Ed's he's down on the Jersey Shore.
Yeah, at the dentist.
Yeah, at the dentist. He's got a toothache. Unfortunately, he couldn't be here today, but he's on vacation, and he's going to be with us next week.
I hope he's using sunscreen.
Yeah, well, he needs it. That's for sure.
Yeah.
You know,
it's going to be dark when he gets back. God bless him.
Jeff, we don't know where Jeff dropped off. We don't know whether he got kidnapped over in.
Yeah, he was somewhere, right?
Oh, I'm sorry, he was in Alaska.
Oh, so Alaska.
I think he might have stayed up there and do some hunting and
polar bears.
Yeah, well,
yeah.
Jeff loves the animals. He really does. So, I think we have something coming up. Right here.
Time takes time. Well, welcome to the Time Takes Time portion of our show, sponsored by the Genesis House. This is where we ask our friends in recovery to email us your sober anniversaries so we can celebrate them with you. Congratulations to the following. We got Dave S. from Chelmsford, just celebrated 3 years. Renee from Chelmsford, just celebrated 39 years. She's a wonderful woman.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, helps a lot of the women. Carol G., Miami, Florida, 6 months, congratulations. And Gary H. out of Loveland, Ohio, 5 years of recovery.
Wow.
Congratulations to everybody.
Yes, absolutely.
If you would like to celebrate your anniversary with us, please email us your first name, your last initial, your city, your state, and your anniversary date to help. I got to slow down here. I'm going a little fast. To help at friendsinrecoverypodcast.com. Once again, that's help at friendsinrecoverypodcast.com. Remember, time takes time. Sponsored by the Genesis House. And listen for your name in upcoming shows.
What do you think, Mike? You ready for a sincere moment?
You know, Shanti Syncere Slade is without a doubt a gift from up above. Yes,
And
I'm ready.
now it's time for a sincere moment with Shanti Syncere Slade, brought to you by Soul Sessions.
Peace and positive energy, beautiful souls. Welcome to a sincere moment. I am Shanti Syncere Slade. So, I want to ask a question. How often do you care about what people think about you? The way you walk, the way you talk, the way you wear your hair, the way you dress, how much money you make, how intelligent you are, who you're dating, who you're not dating. You know, how often does that actually fuel the way you choose to navigate through your life? Well, here's the thing. You are seeking validation from people that are seeking validation, from people that are seeking validation, from people that are seeking validation. I think you get my point. Well, everybody has their insecurities and everybody has their issues. And know that if somebody is judging you, that is just a projection. It's that they're insecure with themselves. And then you can choose to put those bags down by not choosing to be an outlet for what it is that they're projecting. Remember, don't care what anybody else thinks about you. How you think about you is what's most important. You know, caring about something like that is like sitting in prison with the gates wide open. So I say to you, free yourself. Free yourself.
Free.
Because you're beautiful and you are divine. It's another sincere moment with Shanti Syncere Slade. Blessings.
And that's some good stuff,
Oh,
I
my
got to tell you.
God. Share yourself. It's funny, we're talking about step 5 today,
That's right,
right?
that's right.
And it's about sharing
That's right.
yourself with other people. That's unbelievable.
No coincidences
No.
that we have her on the show. It's just amazing.
Yeah.
It's like a
yeah.
back rub.
Yeah, we want to say hi to them once
Yeah,
again.
that's right. The girls,
we miss you.
the best, the best.
Come and visit. I know it's hot down in Washington.
Oh,
Holy
man,
cow,
I
if it's
can't
humid
imagine.
here.
Oh,
I
yeah.
can't imagine.
So we're back, I guess.
Yeah, we're back.
Do you need to say anything or do anything?
No.
Okay. I want to make sure, because, you blasted me at the end of the last show.
Without Eddie here, it's kind of different.
I know,
he's like the ringmaster.
He is, actually,
he is.
Yes, he is.
Yeah, he's not the step guy. He's like the, what would he be? He's, we're going to get him a title. We'll work on that.
Yeah, he's the sponsor.
Yeah, he's the sponsor. I like that. That's good.
It's funny. I'm getting phone calls here from my friend who was supposed to be on the show.
He's a little late.
And he's a little late, unfortunately.
He's late and $1 shot.
But I like to say hi to Andy. I know he's in New Hampshire somewhere. He's probably driving around trying to figure out where we are. So, unfortunately, I didn't hear earlier from him. You know what? I probably should have called him myself.
Right.
So I want to apologize just to remind him. And so, anyway, that's about being honest, right?
That's right.
I apologize, Andy, for not calling you earlier in the day, and I know you're trying to get a hold of me now, but I'm in the middle of the show, and so I will call you as soon as I'm done. And we want to get back. So I was thinking about daily practice of the Step 5.
Yep.
So, like I said before, once we do this, we free ourselves. Now the stuff is out there, and now how may I practice being honest with myself? Accepting who I am, both good and the harm that I do, and living to my potential.
Right.
I want to practice this on a daily basis, right? I want to practice being honest on a daily basis.
Right.
And then where am I responsible and where am I not responsible? What patterns would I rather not repeat in the future?
Correct.
Right, so I'm going to practice a little bit of that, right? If I see myself going back to that direction, I want to pull myself back. I want to practice being honest. I want to practice not lying, being honest with people about my situations and that type of stuff. And as we know, it's not always easy, right? Because, ego gets in the way.
Oh, yeah.
Still pride, so that's why it's a constant vigilance, practice. How may I practice the courage to share my parts of myself that should never see the light of day? Right, so I want to continue to practice. This is an ongoing thing. And we may do this multiple times over the years, more to be revealed, as they used to say, right? Or they still say, more to be revealed. So as we go along in our recovery, things are going to crop up, and, we may have to clean house a little bit more, right? Clean house a little bit more, because every once in a while we gather some dust.
That's right.
Right? Every once in a while you got to dust the house.
Absolutely.
And so same thing in recovery. We may build up some things, or some things may come back, or we may remember some things, as we clear up. As we get clearer, more is going to be revealed. We may remember things that we may not have told that person.
We created a lot of wreckage.
Yeah.
The wreckage of our past.
Yeah.
It's like cleaning out an attic. You can't do it all at once. You do it a couple hours, then you come back a couple of days later, do a little bit more. Before you know it, you got a nice clean attic.
Exactly.
You can sweep it. You can open the windows, clean everything up. That's how I look at it.
Yeah, especially on a day like today.
Oh.
Yeah, you don't want to be up there too long today.
I'd hire someone today.
No, yeah, you don't want to be up there too long today.
That's right.
And then the other thing that happened was I began to trust again. Right? Because now I've shared this stuff with another person. This other person takes this stuff, and it's gone. And now I began to learn how to trust again, and know that if I tell someone the truth, they're not going to hurt me, or they're not going to, I mean, you got to be careful. Obviously, we're in society. Human beings are. We fall short.
It's very important. Very important to find the right person to confide your deepest, darkest secrets.
Yeah.
Because some of us, we might have. Done something that nobody would even think is bad. But there are people that I know, and
Yeah.
I knew people that were in Walpole prison in Massachusetts for bank robbery, that I got friendly with in AA. These people did some stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
And where are you from? What part of Boston?
I grew up in East Boston,
For Christ's
so
sake,
I'm familiar with that.
yeah.
I'm familiar with that.
Right.
And the other thing is that, I lost my train of thought. But
the wreckage, getting rid of
the
everything?
wreckage, and then it's a constant continuance of the cleaning of the house, right? Cleaning it out, and then practicing relying upon my higher power, right? Relying on the program of recovery and relying on the fellowship. Right. So now I have all these tools. I have all these people, right, that I have someone I can go talk to. I can tell them the truth. I know it's not going to go anywhere. I don't have to worry about that.
Right.
And that frees you up. And then now you can do this for other people.
Sure.
And there's nothing greater. I've had people tell me their 5 steps, and there's nothing greater than a person when you sit down with them and they share their intimate stuff with you.
Yep.
It's very cathartic,
Yep.
and it's very it's tremendous. It's
Well,
really tremendous.
and I hear what you're saying, and I think what's really important too is, there's a time when we got to stop beating ourselves. We got to put that stick down that we're hitting ourselves with and say, look, I'm doing the best I can. But I can honestly say one of the best pieces of advice I got and took in early recovery when I was in Seminole Point, Sunapee, New Hampshire, November of 1986, was my counselor, a guy named Valamir. He said, do you get on your knees and pray? And I said, only when I go to church. He says, well, listen, I don't care what God you're praying to, but just think there's somebody better than you. A higher power will come. You know, and I had lost a son, a little boy died. I my second child. I wasn't in tune with God.
Yeah, I understand.
Pissed off. I was upset.
Yeah.
I was hurt. So you know what? That first night I did it. I did it, begrudgingly. But and I said, what do I pray? And he said, you just thank God for a day of sobriety, and next day ask him to take control. Your will, not mine, be done, and then get up, and that's it. And I started doing that, and I've been doing that for 32 years.
Yeah.
Is that the answer? No, there's a lot of work that goes with it. But I got to tell you, I don't forget to pray. I've never, ever jumped in bed and said, I'll do it later. I do it. And honestly, I really believe those little suggestions. Do you agree with me? Or?
I do, absolutely. I mean, prayer and meditation is very important, right? And that's as we get a little further along, now that we get this, now we're going to start the practice.
Right.
And then prayer and meditation is going to settle us down, going to relax us, going to see the truth, right? Mm-hmm. And then the more I do that, like it says here, I practice relying on my higher power. So now I see the effects. I see it happening.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like it becomes clearer that my higher power is in charge.
Right.
And like I had a similar experience early on in recovery. Gentleman suggested the same thing, that I asked for the obsession to be removed from my higher power.
Right.
And I started doing that January 26th of 1989.
Right.
And I haven't stopped doing it.
Right.
And I've been sober since then. So coming up, 30 years almost, by the grace of God and this and AA and people like yourself.
I was just talking to a friend of mine today about that obsession, and I said, I don't go to meetings like I used to, but that obsession has been gone. But if I don't go to meetings, it can creep back in different ways. I might not want to pick up a drink, but thinking.
Yeah, you stop your routine.
Can create, anger. And there's a great acronym in AA, and there's so many of them, but I love the HALT.
Yes.
HALT. If I'm hungry, angry, lonely, or tired, I'm not myself. I can be a real asshole.
Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly.
And I'm sure you
I know that well.
Too. Yeah.
No, Mike's never been an asshole to me.
No.
Thank God. I appreciate it because, he looks like he could be an asshole. I'm only kidding.
Yeah. But I like the acronyms, and that acronym to me was always so important because, especially hungry, I'd be out of my freaking tree. If I was hungry, I needed to get something to eat, and all of a sudden I'd get a call. You got to go here. There's something going on. I'd be, Jesus Christ, I got to eat.
Yeah.
It wasn't good.
So I see we're getting the signal. I think.
Yeah,
we're getting the hook.
We're down the end.
Holy cow! Time flies when you're having fun.
Let's take one more, just a quick 30 seconds and. A little more advice on step 5. What's the meat of step 5?
As you know, I just apologized to my friend Andy because I didn't call him earlier and remind him that he was supposed to be here.
Well, you were saying some pretty bad things about him.
Yeah, well, he just walked in the door. He just walked in the door, so I just want to say hi to Andy.
He's a pretty big dude. You should probably really think about apologizing.
I apologize that I didn't get back to you. We'll have to get you on to one of the next shows, and he has a lot to offer. He's got some sober houses out in Lowell. As you know, we just had some gentlemen here that last week we had a gentleman here who just opened a new house.
That's correct.
So all I can say is, listen, let's continue to practice.
Yep.
Practice. What do they say? Practice makes perfect.
Yeah.
But we don't want to be perfect.
No.
We want progress.
Right. Progress. Not perfection. There you go.
Progress, not perfection.
Boy, I'll tell you, pay attention. I got to say.
It makes life a little easier.
You're smarter than you look.
Yeah, I know. I hear you.
Well, that's it. That's all for today.
Wow.
That's all for today's show. We are your friends in recovery, broadcasting live from the beautiful, ample Studio 21. I want to thank Genesis House for sponsoring us, as they have been for the past 5 months. Our numbers are off the chart.
Thank you, Eddie. We miss you.
Yeah, Eddie, we miss you. Stay down in New Jersey. Enjoy. I hope you meet Snooki and maybe have a good time tonight. And we can be reached at help@friendsandrecoverypodcast.com. You can call us on our 800-989-6504. That's our 800 number.
Yeah, call us, please.
Call us, 800-989-6504. If you want to call me directly, my cell phone is 978-833-0187. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Be sure to like us and subscribe. Come get sober with us. And Rich, great job.
Good to see you again, Mike.
Good seeing you. See you next week.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, or callers of this program do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the Studio 21 Podcast Café, the United Podcast Network, its partners, or affiliates.